கேட்கலீங்க. குளிச்சிடுங்க சீக்கிரங்க. மணியா இருந்தேனா?
What is this? All right. Let's resume. Okay, so this is a continuation of a description of the parikrama in Vrindavan. One minute. Okay. The pilgrimage was unprecedented in scope, almost like a moving city. The 168-mile circumambulation took from the 9th of October to the 11th of November. During the Radha Kund portion of the tour, a wonderful discourse was delivered by the ecstatic preacher, the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya's mercy. Actually, there's a mistake here. Did not do like this. Of Sri Chaitanya's mercy, who delivers devotion service. That should have been a quotation here. The personified energy of Sri Chaitanya's mercy. And it should be now full stop. Who delivers, W should have been small case. Devotional service, which is enriched with conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of revelation of Srila Rupa Goswami. That's from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Pranam Mantra. At the junction of Radha and Shyamakund, on the subject of Sri Upadeshamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami, a large audience of Rajvasis and Pandits were fortunate enough to hear him speak. This is a sample. Generally, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took up the policy, Choto muke bodo kotha shobha paye na. Doesn't look well for a small mouth to articulate on lofty subjects. So it's a proverb in Bengal. So he applied it to this. We're not supposed to talk about exalted subjects in Srimad Bhagavatam. We're supposed to deal with subject matters that are more relevant. Specifically, he did not approve of discussion and contemplation of the conjugal pastimes of Krishna by those who are subject to sexual desires, because in Bhakti Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami has forbidden persons who can be sexually aroused from dealing with the conjugal pastimes of Lord Krishna. So therefore, the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati preferred to speak about the Upanishads, Upadeshamrita, nectar of instruction, or similar preparatory topics, Srimad Bhagavatam, initial portion, first canto. Sometimes he would give a lecture on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam itself. At the conclusion of the parikrama, Srila Saraswati Thakur proceeded to Allahabad, where he oversaw the laying of the foundation stone for the Sri Rupa Gaudiya Math in Allahabad. Sir Malcolm Haley, the governor of UP, United Provinces, Central India at that time, was on hand for the occasion and personally laid the cornerstone in Srila Saraswati Thakur's presence. It was there that Srila Prabhupada received first and second initiation from Srila Saraswati Thakur, who was pleased to see him. When he was presented as a candidate for initiation, Srila Saraswati Thakur commented, "Yes, he likes to hear. He does not go away. I have marked him. I will make him my disciple." So that was an indication of what would come about, because proper kirtanam has to happen if there is proper shravanam. Srila Saraswati Thakur's preaching was going on in a big way. He had teams of sannyasis and brahmacharis constantly traveling and preaching, distributing magazines and books, establishing centers, arranging programs, etc. A core of 18 sannyasis were organizing things. His propaganda attracted so many people that Subhash Chandra Bose, the famous nationalist and a former classmate of Srila Prabhupada at Scottish Churches College, met with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and complained, "So many people you have captured. They're doing nothing for nationalism." They replied, "Well, for your national propaganda, you require very strong men. But these people are very weak. You can see they're very skinny. So don't put your glance upon them. Let them eat something and chant Hare Krishna." Srila Prabhupada commented on this incident. In this way, he avoided him. The kind of revolution Srila Saraswati Thakur had in mind could not be appreciated by Mr. Bose. Throughout India at that time, there was this idea that we should actually, India first of all needs to gain political independence, and then it can focus on its culture. And there was this false hope that was being spread that after India gets political independence, then it can shine with all of its morality, ethics, and religiosity, which never happened. In January of 1933, a large diorama exhibition was opened in Dhaka, presently the capital of Bangladesh. It was then a part of India, called Sat Siksha. Good instructions, spiritual instructions. It featured toys, dolls, etc. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave discourses there for 1 month to large crowds of learned and respectable people. The messages sent to the West. After the annual Gaur Purnima celebration and circumambulation of Sri Navadip Dham of 1933, Srila Saraswati Thakur resolved to further expand his preaching of Krishna consciousness to Europe in line with the desires of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Inspirationally, on Lord Chaitanya's appearance day, the thick English volume Sri Krishna Chaitanya by his disciple Professor Sanyal was brought out in a beautifully bound edition. So when this book was ready, only then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ventured to have Krishna consciousness broadcast in Europe. This was the book. They make so much noise that we are referring to our Prabhupada as Prabhupada, and that Prabhupada should only be used for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Look at this, and look at so many publications, and you see in the Harmonist also in so many places. Even in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Samadhi in Mayapur in the past, they did not have the title Prabhupada there. So it was not. This is the Pranam Mantra. This is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's introduction. Forward. Actually, the first 200 pages would be really good. The first 200 pages would be good. This was supposed to be a multi-volume edition, but it just didn't work out. So it stops with this much. Yes. Yes. It doesn't go beyond. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, it would be Madhya Khanda. It takes up to Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi Khanda, only that much. The second volume was not published during his time. On the 18th of March, Srila Saraswati Thakur gave instructions to two of his sannyasi disciples and a third disciple in a special meeting in Madras, which served as a farewell address. The three disciples who were to proceed to Europe on behalf of their Guru Maharaj were Sripad Bhakti Pradip Tirtha Maharaj, a disciple of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and the sannyas disciple of Srila Saraswati Thakur, Sripad Bhakti Hriday Bon Maharaj, and Sri Sambhidananda Prabhu. The instructions he gave them form a brilliant essay on the mood and behavior of a preacher in foreign lands. As we read it, it is impossible not to meditate on how Srila Prabhupada perfectly fit the description of the ideal preacher according to Saraswati Thakur's description. The talk, entitled L'Envoy, which means one who is dispatched on a mission, a messenger, was later published as an essay in the collected English writings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The happy day has come when we are destined to spread the message of our great master, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to distant corners of the earth. I think that we also need to understand what was the world situation at that time. This is 1930. And Great Britain was ruling India. It was a very powerful political force. The British Raj was very much there. I think about half of the earth was on, almost, you can say, was, or at least 1/3 of the earth was under the British Raj. World War I had finished. World War II was to come in the 40s. Great Britain was very, very powerful. And the heart of Great Britain was London. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted nothing less than to send people to London. He also had thought of America. He had thought of America also. But at that time, London was, UK was very, very powerful. And therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wanted Lord Chaitanya's message to go there, nothing less than the highest. The spiritual service to which we are dedicated has now passed the bud stage and blown fully into a flower whose aroma we have to carry across the seas with that willingness which characterized Sri Hanuman when he leapt over the wide ocean with the message of Sri Ram. This extension of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual gift to foreign countries is our humble offering at his feet. The words of instruction of Sri Gaurasundar are verily his beautiful body. The preachers of his word through the ages are his secondary limbs. The teaching of Sri Gaurasundar is his potent weapon. And the grace of Sri Hari himself, established in the word of Sri Chaitanya, is his eternal associate. Therefore, for the purpose of truly representing Sri Gaurasundar, the Lord of the Gaudiya, Lord of the Bengali community, to the aliens, to the people living in foreign lands, I am addressing these few words of mine to the preachers who are about to proceed to countries beyond India. This was very revolutionary. Traditionally, sannyasis never journeyed across the ocean or rode on conveyances of any sort, as it was considered a time of sense gratification for a true renunciate. However, the consideration here was to deliver the message of Mahaprabhu for the salvation of the suffering world. we found the following great precepts, Mahavakya, in the body of the teaching that has been vouchsafed to us by the Supreme Master of all masters, to chant constantly the discourse of Hari by being extremely more humble than the blade of grass, by being as forbearing as the tree, by seeking no honor for oneself, and by offering due honor to all entities. It is the highest natural function of the unalloyed individual souls, jivas. The lotus feet of my Sri Gurudev attracted me to his service by his manifestation as the living embodiment of these four great precepts. My friends will be in a position to attract all souls of the world to the footstool of the real truth by purchasing the same unfailing method. Note that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is herein exhibiting his humility by referring to his disciples as his friends. The crest jewel of the order of the sannyasis of the triple staff, the Tridandi sannyas. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Goswami Pad has taught the same process to those who assume the triple staff of renunciation in the following words. I say this by holding the straw between my teeth, by falling at your feet, and uttering hundreds of humble entreaties. All ye good souls, by throwing off everything to a distance, practice love to the feet of Sri Chaitanya, who is so surpassingly beautiful. Following in the footsteps of all the former devotees, I am making my submission to them to pursue the identical method of propaganda. You can clearly see this is how Prabhupada spoke. Very humbly. And Prabhupada says you have to flatter. You have to give people the impression that, wow, without you, we can't function. I can't do anything. And Prabhupada often presented himself, I'm an old man, I need a lot of help. But at the same time, no compromise. Throw away everything that you've learned. So on one hand, Prabhupada was personally very humble, but at the same time, philosophically, he had zero compromise. No compromise. Wrong is wrong. Absolutely clear. He used very freely, he used words like rascals, nonsense. It's the same method taught by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, originally coming from Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Deva is the supreme teacher of all teachers of this world and the ideal possessor of intelligence that is the highest of all. It should be our only duty to constantly chant those words regarding the cleansing of the mirror of the heart, of which he speaks in his 8 precepts, Shikshashtakam. We are only the bearers of the transcendental word. We shall never in any way hesitate to offer every honor and facility for which they are eligible to all persons of this world. We must pray to all for the boon of aptitude for the service of Krishna. We should pray to Krishna that everybody awakens his service attitude towards Krishna. We shall come across many persons in this world possessing an endless variety of characters, disposed or hostile to the service of Krishna. But we should not slacken in our loving service of the Lord, of our hearts, and should offer due honor to all persons. It is important to understand that we are meant to be respectful to everyone as due, as appropriate. We will have opportunities as we approach different persons in all parts of the world with the vendor's bag of the discourse of Hari to see a good many sights, to hear much, and to seek to derive much benefit from our experience. May we never forget that all entities of this world are essentially proteges of the lotus feet of Sri Guru for helping the expansion of his service. May we always remember that they are excellent only if they are prepared to wait with the utmost eagerness on the particle of dust of the lotus feet of my Sri Guru, and that otherwise they are merely the mirage devised by the deluding potency for our ruin. Now, one thing that I must make clear, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur very strongly pointed out that expressions like Guru refer to a perfect pure Vaishnava and nothing less than that. He was quite adamant about it. In one place, he says that he has accepted as his gurus only those who are Nityasiddhas, Nityasiddha Vaishnavas, not even Sadhana Siddhas. So then what to speak of exalted sadhakas or devotees more advanced than us, but who are still on the sadhana platform. He often said, the one who has gone to Calcutta and come back can describe Calcutta correctly. The one who has gone to Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan and come back, one with full prema bhakti, he can describe Goloka Vrindavan, Vaikuntha. So when he says Guru, he is also specified. In Sanskrit, the word Guru can mean a Guru as we commonly understand, or Guru can also mean heavy. And the counter correlate or opposite of that is Laghu, light. And he repeatedly points out that the Guru refers to a person who is the counter correlate or the opposite of Laghu. It is, this is not in, it is not, he uses the word Guru in an objective way, not in a subjective way. By relationship, I might accept somebody as my Guru. But that is not Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He's not talking about that. He's talking of a person who is heavy with Krishna Prema, whether you have taken Diksha from him or Shiksha from him or neither, it doesn't matter. He is a Guru. He has Krishna Prema. He may be your disciple also by Diksha or Shiksha or whatever. He may be your god brother by Diksha, Shiksha, whatever. Or he may be your Guru, he may be your Guru's god brother, whatever. It makes no difference. He's objectively that. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur often spoke about that. Objective, from the objective point of view. This is strictly rooted on Upadeshamrita conception of how to deal with Vaishnavas, how to think about Vaishnavas also. Upadeshamrita text 5. I wish to remind those friends of mine who are proceeding to the West or preaching the words of Sri Chaitanya, the two precepts of my master, Sri Rupa, the constant endeavor for cultivating relationship with Krishna of a person who, being free from all mundane affinity, enjoys the entities of this world, having due regard to the propriety of each case, in pursuance of his purpose, is called the proper kind of renunciation. This is a nice translation. Nice translation of Anasaktasya Vishayam Yatharham Upayunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. And then the abnegation. Abnegation means abandonment by persons desirous of liberation of entities that have an affinity with Hari, in considering their mundane nature, is termed renunciation possessing little real value. Prapanchikataya buddhya Hari Sambandhi Vastuna Mumukshubhi Parityago Vairagyam Phalku Kathyate. These two verses were so important for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that in his Gaudiya weekly, as far as I remember, it was in the Gaudiya, right in the first page of every issue, on the logo, to this side and to this side, he had these two verses put up. Very, very important for him. Here, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out how to avoid temptation by only being interested in those persons who exhibit the inclination to serve the feet of Sri Guru and to practice Yukta Vairagya, not Phalgu Vairagya. Also, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur not only spoke about Yukta Vairagya, he also spoke about Gita Samsara, that you can use service to God as a pretext to engage in sense enjoyment. It is my request to my friends, by giving due honor to all persons, to follow in their preaching the ideal of Sri Sanatana Goswami Prabhu in his exposition of the aphorism of the Vedanta, cessation of mundane birth from the transcendental sound, cessation of further birth from sound, under the section of result to be achieved, to be found in such shlokas as all glory to the bliss of the name of Murari. Okay, this requires some explanation. This is Anavritti Shabdad, Anavritti Shabdad. These are the last two sutras of the Vedanta Sutra. Anavritti means, this is a discussion about a liberated soul. A soul who finally attains liberation. The Vedanta Sutra is a very systematic presentation of the essence of the teachings of the entire body of Vedic knowledge. So it finally concludes with the soul attaining the spiritual world, a world of spiritual variety, and him not coming back. So it concludes by saying Anavritti Shabda, which generally the commentators, including the Vaishnava commentators, take it to mean, okay, and the living entity does not experience any return because it is stated in Shabda Brahma, it is stated in the Vedas. The living entity does not come back because it is stated in this Shabda Brahma, Vedic scripture, twice. That is to really emphasize that and to conclude the work. But the verse can also be translated in this manner. The liberated soul does not come back into this world of birth and death by dint of Shabda Brahma, by taking advantage of spiritual sound. That is why he is translating it like this: cessation of mundane birth because of the transcendental sound, cessation of further birth because of the transcendental sound. So because of the transcendental sound refers to because of the transcendental sound of the holy name of Krishna. And this is presented in, the basic idea comes from Sanatana Goswami's Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Here. It's from Brihad Bhagavatamrita 1.1.9. Jayati Jayati Nama Nandarupam Murare Viramita Nija Dharma Dhyana Pujadi Yatnam Kathamapi Sakradaktam Muktitam Prani Nam Yat Paramam Amrutamekam Jivanam Bhushanam Me. All glories to the all blissful holy name of Sri Krishna, which causes the devotee to give up all conventional religious duties, meditation and worship, when somehow or other uttered, even once by a living entity. The holy name awards him liberation. The holy name of Krishna is the highest nectar. It is my very life and my only treasure. So that is what he's referring to here. All glories to the bliss of the name of Murari. Those nations to whom you are going for the propagation of the chant of Hari are mounted on the summit of proficiency in all affairs of this world. They are practiced in the exercise of their rational judgment, are endowed with the quality of good manners. Should maintain our hope unshaken that they will prove to be, something is missing here, that they will prove to be the worthiest recipients of the heard transcendental voice if we unlock to them the gates of the natural exhibition of abiding argument and enduring judgment. In other words, you're meant to present Krishna consciousness properly on the basis of intelligence. Prabhupada, he spoke like this. There was one lecture. That I'll send the quote separately. But even in 26nd Avenue, 1966, even at that time, Prabhupada was, that was right at the beginning. He was training the people who were coming to think using their intelligence. So Prabhupada did not, in a very dogmatic manner, present Krishna consciousness. He presented it on a logical basis, in a very rational basis. And we know from Chaitanya Charitamrita that those who are on the highest platform of Krishna consciousness, their understanding of Krishna consciousness is also fully rational. here. Shastra Yukti Sunipon, Dridashraddha Jar, Uttam Adhikari Se Taraye Samsar. One who is expert in logic, argument, and the revealed scriptures, and whose firm faith in Krishna is classified as a topmost devotee. He can deliver the whole world. That is actually coming from, it is stated on the basis of a statement that we also find in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Shastra Yuktochan Nipuna, Sarvatha Drida Nishchay, Prauda Shraddhoti Kari Sya, Sabhakta Uttamo Mataha. One who is expert in logic and in understanding the revealed scriptures, and who always has firm conviction and deep faith that is not blind, is to be considered a topmost devotee in devotional service. So they present everything in a very logical manner. Shastra Yukti. Yukti means logical argument. Shastra refers to scriptural evidence. If we unpack our baggage of the genuine discourse of Hari by relying on the qualities of forbearance, tolerance, it will certainly receive the garland of welcome from the hearts of nations gifted with keen intelligence. We have not been actuated by any attempt of rivalry or hostility in undertaking this propaganda. This should always be borne in mind. We should call at the door of each and every seeker of the truth, bearing on our heads the baggage of the real truth to be offered to them. It is no business of ours to be elated. Elated means to become delighted or discouraged by the praise or neglect of any person. Everything's, whatever he's speaking, is straight coming from Shastra. Parasvabhava karmani na prashamsen na grahaya. Vishwamekatmakam pashyan prakritya purushena cha. One should neither praise nor criticize the conditioned nature and activities of other persons. Rather, one should see this world as simply the combination of material nature and enjoying souls, all based on the one absolute truth. We must be constantly alive to the duty of enhancing the pleasure of our master by serving him with perfect sincerity. Sincerity. This is one of the key teachings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Lack of duplicity. I remember reading a statement from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that a person who is who engages in forbidden activities, sinful activities, maybe it will take some lifetimes for him to be delivered, but there is a possibility. But a person who is crooked, a person who is duplicitous, dishonest, there's no hope of deliverance for him. Even if he engages in devotional service, there's no hope. No hope. We must not look at the world by being weighed down with the mentality that is oppressed with the sense of deficiency or otherwise, by the poverty or otherwise of the display of worldly erudition, rank, etc., by any particular person. This is a state of forgetfulness of our real selves. All persons of this world are really superior to us in every way as far as this world is concerned. All those matters are not any commodities that are fit to be coveted by us. We are merely beggars with the triple staff of renunciation devoted to the chanting of the words of Sri Chaitanya. We have no more nor any higher desirable object than the pleasure of serving Sri Hari Guru Vaishnavas. So we have nothing to do with this, with anything that may be possessed by those to whom we want to convey the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We are not the operators of the instrument, but only the instruments. We must always bear this in mind. The triple staff bhikshus, or the living mridangas of Sri Chaitanya. We must constantly give forth our music at the feet of Sri Guru. We should practice the function of the peripatetic preacher, Parivrajaka, the wandering mendicant, of carrying aloft the victorious banner of the commands of divine Sri Gausanga by constant submission to Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas, fixing our eye on the pole star of the heard transcendental voice. the heard transcendental voice. Voice. Notice that voice is a capital V. The voice of the Supreme Lord. It is the Vedic message, which we should have heard. Therefore, the heard transcendental voice. We must always bear in mind that we have been initiated in the vow of the peripatetic preacher, Parivrajak, for the sole purpose of promulgating the heart's desire of Sri Guru and Gauranga. In other words, we have taken, of course, this is a message to the Parivrajak, the two sannyasis, that they have taken this initiation, sannyasa initiation, in order to fulfill the desires of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. If we are constantly inspired with the duty of discoursing about the truth under the guidance of Sri Guru, no hankering after traveling, nor any veiled form of desire other than chanting of Harinam will ever strike any terrors into our hearts. The vowed service of the name, the transcendental abode, and the desire of Sri Gaur Sundar is our only eternal function. Gaur Nam, Gaur Dham, Gaur Kam, the Nama, Dhama, Kama of Sri Gaur Sundar. We need to serve them. That is our only eternal function. We are living entities. We are eternal servants of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, our only duty is to serve His name, to serve His abode, to serve His desire. And it is His desire that we should spread His teachings all over the planet. We are bhikshus of the triple staff, the ingathering of the smallest alms, even such as are gathered by the bees, is our only means for serving the manifestation of the manifestive divine form of Sri Chaitanya Mat all over the world. We are neither enjoyers nor abnegators of mundane entities. So, in other words, this is another teaching of His. We should not try to enjoy anything in this material world, nor should we try to renounce anything in this material world. We recognize as our highest objective the desire for carrying with veneration the shoes of the order of the Paramahamsas. Karmavalambaka kechit jnanavalambaka vayantu haridasanam padatranavalambaka. We are simply carrying the shoes of the devotees of Lord Hari, Padyavali. It will be our only duty to proclaim to all the people that complete reliance on the transcendental absolute truth is by far the highest form of freedom, and one that is infinitely superior to the partial independent mastery over the distorted, reflected entity in the shape of this mundane world. So this world is a distorted reflection of the spiritual world. So whatever independent control, dominion we may have is first of all partial. We cannot take charge of the entire material world, but only a part of it. But to fully become dependent on the transcendental absolute truth, Krishna, is actual freedom. By holding the straw between our teeth in supplication, we shall carry aloft the banner of that real freedom to all persons. We should be constantly engaged in chanting the exhilarating name of Sri Hari by adopting as our fundamental enlightening principle that the highest path is the path of submission, endorsed by Sri Rupa, with the further exhortation, with the further command to cherish the unwavering faith that He will always protect us. What an inspiring speech. Imagine the scene, the magnificently romantic spiritual figure of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the commander-in-chief of the Vaishnavas, exhorting his men to carry the transcendental sound into the heart of darkness, the Western world, reminding them that their only duty is to serve the Master with perfect sincerity, reminding them that they are not the doers, but simply the instruments, the living mridangas of Sri Chaitanya, giving forth our music at the lotus feet of Sri Guru. He is reminding them to remain humble, that all persons of this world are really superior to us in every way, as far as the world is concerned. He also reminds them that we have not been actuated by any attempt of rivalry or hostility in undertaking this propaganda. And finally, it will be our duty to proclaim to all the people that complete reliance on the transcendental absolute truth is by far the highest form of freedom. We shall carry aloft the banner of real freedom to all persons. This speech shows perfect realization of the preaching spirit in the mood of the perfect humility of a Vaishnava. Compare this mood of perfect humility to Srila Prabhupada's prayers invoking Srila Saraswati Thakur's mercy, composed on the Jaladut on his journey to America. Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is very dear to Lord Gauranga, the son of Mother Shachi, is unparalleled in his service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. He is that great saintly spiritual master who bestows intense devotion to Krishna at different places throughout the world. Intense devotion. Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Shachi Sutta Priyati Jar Sevai Krishna Tulla Jar Sevai Krishna Tulla Jar Seva Jar Tulla Krishna Sevai She Mahanta Guru Jagatir Madhya Uru Krishna Bhakti Day Thaika Uru Krishna Bhakti. Intense devotion to Krishna. Intense devotion. Because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, for all practical purposes, it will not be wrong to say he is. If Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had to come back to implement everything that he wrote, that would be Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. What Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur clearly says, give up everything, give up your family duties, everything. Simply serve Krishna. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur demonstrated it. Took people and made them brahmacharis and said, you just be brahmachari, that's all. Took even, sometimes he even preached to Grihasthas, made them sannyasis, that's all. Just serve Lord Chaitanya. That's your only duty, you have no other duty. Don't be in a delusion. Intense devotion to Krishna. By his strong desire, the holy name of Lord Gauranga will spread throughout all the countries of the Western world, in all the cities, towns, and villages on the earth, from all the oceans, seas, rivers, and streams. Everyone will chant the holy name of Krishna. As the vast mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu conquers all directions, a flood of transcendental ecstasy will certainly cover the land. When all the sinful, miserable living entities become happy, the Vaishnava's desire is then fulfilled. Although my Guru Maharaj ordered me to do it, I am not worthy or fit to do it. I am very fallen and insignificant. Therefore, O Lord, now I am begging you for your mercy, so that I may become worthy, for you are the wisest and most experienced of all. If you bestow your power by serving the spiritual master, one attains the absolute truth. One's life becomes successful. If that service is obtained, then one becomes happy and gets your association due to good fortune. And then, arriving in Boston, he speaks out his heart to Lord Krishna. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? This is how Prabhupada saw America. Terrible place. Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion, absorbed in material life. They think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it, but I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotion service? Oh Lord, I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have come under the control of the illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. Just like Prahlad Maharaj. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation. And if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, same thing, submissive oral reception, oral, you hear, oral reception, you receive it through your ear, submissively, without arguing back, submissively. That's how we receive the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, coming through the Parampara. Then he will be able to understand your message. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relished, who has relished his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regularly hearing the Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart is practically destroyed, and loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. At the time loving service is established in the heart, the modes of passion, rajas and ignorance, tamas, and lust and desire, kama, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes happy. Thus established in the mode of goodness, the man, rejuvenated by loving service to the Lord, gains liberation from material association, mukti. That liberation from material association means mukti. And comes to know scientifically of the personality of Godhead, thus the knots of the heart and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions, karma, is terminated when one sees the self as master. The self here refers to the Supreme Lord, Supreme Super Self. He will become liberated from the influence of the modes of ignorance and passion. Thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? Keep in mind, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was only interested in having this message propagated to anyone who's willing to accept them. Initially, when Prabhupada went to America, he was he thought that the educated elite people of America might listen to him. It didn't happen. Instead, he found the hippies listening to him. Prabhupada, he accepted it. He accepted it. Not that he didn't think, oh no, what is it, these people? Why should I preach to these people? I should preach to people also that class. Because I am of a particular standard. And therefore, I need people of a particular standard. He didn't think like that. Whatever. By Krishna's arrangement, this has happened. It's all right. Anybody who is engaged in submissive oral reception of the message of Lord Vasudeva, that's okay. So you can see, directly matches the way Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur presented. This is how you preach. It's exactly, Prabhupada was preaching it exactly in that way. So it's not just repeating the instructions of a perfect pure devotee, repeating the instructions of the perfect parampara, or repeating the instructions of the perfect Supreme Lord. In fact, you need to be of a certain quality, only then the effect will come. Purity is the force. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. It is not that Prabhupada did not understand the West. Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini. This is how Prabhupada himself described himself. It was primarily meant for the Western audience. In fact, initially Prabhupada, when he was preaching in the West, he thought, I'm supposed to be preaching to this West. My godbrothers are supposed to preach in India. But then later on, he said the Rukmini Dwarakanath deities, small deities, Utsava deities, and New Dwaraka, it's called Los Angeles, instructed him to also preach in India, sent him back. And that's when Prabhupada started thinking about preaching in India. But Prabhupada was primarily focused on preaching to the West. And he succeeded. He will still succeed. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I'm sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. Oh Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like. Comparing this powerful invocation for the mercy of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Lord Krishna, with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's long while, we see that His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's mood, words, and activity were the living personification of the preacher as described by his spiritual master. this is, we are not stating this out of sectarian devotion to our Prabhupada. It is just a fact, a simple fact. We can see that Srila Prabhupada was clearly the full manifestation of the intense desires of Srila Saraswati Thakur to spread Krishna consciousness in the Western world, as he was consumed with the same intense compassion and humility to deliver the unfortunate. Not just deliver the unfortunate, deliver the most unfortunate. These two liberated and empowered creatures were clearly Krishna's choice for the salvation of the earth. Read it again. These two liberated and empowered creatures were clearly Krishna's choice for the salvation of the earth. You accept the teachings of these two acharyas as your two eyes. Krishna will make it very, very clear how to make progress in Krishna consciousness and how to help others progress in Krishna consciousness. In May, a preaching center was established in London, in Kensington. At the end of the month, Srila Saraswati Thakur received some inquiries from Lord Zetland, who had formerly been the governor of Bengal during Srila Prabhupada's student days, and he also heard from the Marquis of Lutyens. He sent them replies. In June, he received letters of thanks and appreciation from the Secretary of Lord Edwin, the Marquis of Lutyens, the editor of the London Times, and Sir Stanley Jackson. His preachers then had a meeting in July with King George V and Queen Mary at Buckingham Palace, and also with the Archbishop of Canterbury. By December, his European preachers had proceeded to Germany and France and delivered some lectures there. 1933 to 1936, final years. On August 27th of 1933, that is in the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur delivered a lecture at the Saraswati Assembly Hall in the Bagh Bazaar temple of the Gaudiya Math. This lecture was printed in many Gaudiya publications and widely distributed. Later on in the 1960s, it was reprinted in Bhakti Gaudiya magazine. The title of the discourse was The Vedanta, Its Morphology and Ontology. The language of the essay was so erudite and complex that we are reminded of Srila Prabhupada's comment. Sometimes I would understand, sometimes I would not understand, but I would go on hearing. Scholars and intellectuals are still intrigued and baffled simultaneously by it. It's not that Srila Saraswati Thakur was being deliberately confusing, but just as certain sounds go above the wavelength of an ordinary human can hear, so similarly, some of the thoughts of such a transcendental genius are very hard to follow. The essay is beyond brilliance and beyond scholarship, being perfect spiritual knowledge. We reproduce here some of the easier portions. The Vedanta deals with the theme beyond the finite views of phenomena. Phenomena refers to that which is within the range of our perception. And whatever we perceive with our material senses, of course, they are finite, they are limited. But the Vedanta deals with something which is beyond the range of the scope of our perception of reality. The subjects dealt within that particular philosophy are not confined to any part of the material space, any definite span of time, or any object of sensuous perception made up of any substance of this universe. The activities of a being are measured in time. The playground of a being, either linear, superficial, or cubical, is accommodated in space, and the limited subjectivity or fleshy tabernacular entity is confined to phenomena. Everything that we can conceive of within our material experience can be understood in terms of space and time. The Vedantic scheme is quite different from such limited structural monuments, though some people attempted to bring Vedanta within the prison bars of their senses. Though Vedanta deals with ordinary language, quite dovetailing the views of ordinary intelligentsia to gradually heave them up to the supersensuous regions where senses cannot work by their present implements with senses, or cannot help them, or senses or accessories, or cannot help them by the words of their credulous friends, their admiring friends, their believing friends. Still, the transcendental topics are imparted slowly through the linguistic and rationalistic attainments to differentiate the plane of transcendence and the undesirable transformable plane of enjoyments. The plane of transcendence is the spiritual existence, spiritual world. And then you have this world, which is a platform of material enjoyment, but it is constantly transforming, it's changing. And that is not very desirable, because whatever you desire to attain, it will go away. As it is helping the journey of understanding, we need not stick to a stagnant view in order to gratify our senses at cost of rationality and harmonious language exactly fitting our whims. So the method of studying this particular philosophy should never be confined to the same process of confusing the transcendence with our present plane of thought. Some portions are much harder. One brief example. Some of the adventurers have been found to transform the substratum itself, or proselytize, preach, or expand their mundane exploitive journey to the theory of misconception. The theory of misconception. Bhrantavad. There's the idea that the supreme absolute truth itself became bewildered. It is one of the views of the Mayavada school. The analytic process meets the synthetic aspirant at a point, and we find a combined attempt of their development in literatures, which are also included later on in the Vedantic school. There is the desire to break things down and understand through analysis. That is the analytic process. But there is also another tendency to understand everything in terms of put everything together, synthesis. And a person who aspires for that is the synthetic aspirant. Dvaita scholars of the Bhaskara and the Nimbarka schools have given us such views. There was one Bhaskara who was very critical of Shankaracharya's Mayavada, but who had this view known as Aupadika Dvaita. It was refuted by Ramanujacharya. Nimbarkacharya presents a view known as Swabhavika Dvaita, which is just another reformulation of the Vaishnava system. The empiric starting from a perishable plane, aiming at the indestructible direction, could bring for us a cumulative view of the terminus. The system of the Vedanta philosophy should always look forward to approach the absolute and not to any non-absolute search. The mundane morphological march need not be considered identical with the transcendental morphology, which cannot in any case show its transiency and altering phases. In August of 1933, the second annual diorama exhibition was held in Kurukshetra and was called the Gaudiya exhibition. In September of 1933, Srila Saraswati Thakur went on a Sankirtan tour with his disciples, preaching and chanting in different places around Navadvip, utilizing two motor launches called Leela and Suradham. Toward the end of the year, he preached in Patna, where he opened another diorama exhibition, again called Sat Siksha, spiritual instructions. And many eminent persons from Patna University attended. At the end of November, he published his edited edition of Srila Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha. That is his translation of Bhakti Sandarbha. Other preachers went to Karachi, and simultaneously a theistic exhibition was organized in Kashi, Benares. In the beginning of 1934, the Maharaj of Tripura visited Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Calcutta and praised the programs of the Gaudiya mission. He offered his respects to the feet of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, inquired from him on spiritual topics and heard from him attentively. In February, he inaugurated a newly built temple at the birth site of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur at Modadrumadvi in Navadvip Dham. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, the Vyasa of Chaitanya Leela, was the author of Lord Chaitanya's biography, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. He also opened a temple at Srivasangan, the place of Lord Chaitanya's inauguration of the Sankirtan movement, as well as his nocturnal night kirtans with his eternal associates. The newly constructed Samadhi of his spiritual master, Srila Gaurakishore Das Babaji, was also completed and opened at this time. During the course of the year, he engaged in discourses with many scholars, government leaders, and religionists, and he initiated a good number of his followers into the sannyas order. On June 13th of 1934, while the foundation of the Mayapur Yogapeeth temple was being dug, a four-armed Adhokshaja deity was discovered and identified as the household deity of Jagannath Mishra, the father of Lord Chaitanya. Everyone on hand was amazed and excited at this event, which only further confirmed the absolute authenticity of the site discovered by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In July, the deity form of Srila Gaurakishore Das Babaji was installed in the Samadhi temple, accompanied by tremendous Sankirtan. In October, Srila Saraswati Thakur and many disciples stayed in Mathura for more than a month, strictly executing the Kartik vow, as taught in Hari Bhakti Vilas. During this time, he spoke on the topics of Krishna's Ashtakalika Leela, the pastimes of the Lord executed during the day's 8 divisions. On the 29th of October, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur discovered the actual site where Srila Rupa Goswami had the darshan of the Gopal deity in his old age in the Mathura area. This deity of Gopal has a great history. It was originally established by Vajra, the grandson of Krishna. Later, during the Mohammedan era, there was threat of attack, and the priest hid Gopal in the bushes and ran away. This comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Madhavendra Puri, the Param Guru, the grand spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, came to Vrindavan, Gopal appeared to him in a dream, told him of his location, capital H, and asked him to install him, capital H, once again on the top of Govardhan Hill. Madhavendra Puri built a temple, held a magnificent installation ceremony with hundreds of buckets of water and mountains of prasadam, and established a very high standard of deity worship. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan in the mood of a humble devotee, he did not want to put his feet on Govardhan Hill. Therefore, the deity, on the pretext of an imminent attack by some Turkish soldiers, descended to the village of Gathuli Gram and gave his darshan to, or took darshan of, the ecstatic Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 3 days. Later, Gopal returned to his place on Govardhan Hill. In their old age, Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami also wanted to receive the darshan of Lord Gopal, but following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they did not want to step on Govardhan Hill. Therefore, the deity made an arrangement for them as well by descending to Mathura and staying in the temple of Vithaleshwar for 1 full month. Vithaleshwar was Vallabhacharya's son, one of his sons, as far as I remember. A huge procession of spiritual luminaries accompanied Srila Rupa and Srila Sanatana Goswamis to Mathura and stayed with them there. Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Lokanath Das Goswami, Bhugarbha Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, Sri Yadavacharya, and many other exalted Vaishnavas were all present. Toward the end of 1934, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur directed his European preachers to deliver lectures in the German universities where there was much interest in Sanskrit and Vedic culture. In January of 1935, the governor of Bengal, Sir John Anderson, came to Mayapur and heard about the Holy Dham from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In February, the 61st birthday of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was celebrated in Jagannath Puri, the place of his appearance, and a large meeting was convened, chaired by the king of Jagannath Puri. That was the year that Srila Prabhupada composed his poem and essay, which he submitted to the harmonist for publication. One stanza was particularly pleasing to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. He liked it so much that he showed it to everyone who came to see. One of Prabhupada's godbrothers compared it to the incident of Srila Rupa Goswami's composing a verse, revealing his understanding of the inner thinking of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Srila Saraswati Thakur liked the essay very much also. He instructed the editor of the Harmonist, whatever he writes, publish it. On the day after the Vyasa Puja ceremony, this incident, Prabhupada refers to it. Here. See, at this time, he also wrote an essay. Is that mentioned here? Yes, he wrote an essay also. That essay is very nice, very, very nice. Comes in, it is included in Science of Self-Realization. Very important essay. The Science of Self-Realization. Yeah, this is the one. Long essay. Very, very good though. Extremely nice. Clear. So, the remark is here. We had the opportunity to receive a similar blessing from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami when we presented an essay at his birthday ceremony. He was so pleased with that essay that he used to call some of his confidential devotees and show it to them. How could we have understood the intentions of Srila Prabhupada? Now, this is Prabhupada's Prabhupada. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. You see here, that's the comparison. It's just like how Rupa Goswami understood Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. On the day after the Vyasa Puja ceremony, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur led his followers on a circumambulation of Purushottam Dham, Jagannath Puri, and spoke to them about its glories. On Gaur Purnima, he was visited in Mayapur by the king of Tripura, who opened the gate of the Yogapith temple. In April, he traveled to Gaya, where he opened a center, saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's places of preaching, and gave wonderful lectures to a sophisticated and learned audience. To further spread the waves of Lord Chaitanya's mission, he sent preachers to Burma in the same month. In June, he broadcast, for perhaps the first time by radio, Harinam Sankirtan from the Indian Broadcasting Service Center in Calcutta. This led to regular Sunday broadcasts of various Gaudiya functions like live broadcasts of Sankirtan and Bhajan from different parts of Calcutta, the Janmashtami celebration, Nandotsav, Radhashtami, and the appearance celebration of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In September, the complete edition of the Srimad Bhagavatam was published in 12 cantos with elaborate indexes, word meanings. Bengali, this word meanings was Sanskrit to Sanskrit word meanings. Bengali translation. There was also canto summaries, chapter summaries. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sarartha Varshini commentary, Srila Madhvacharya's purports, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's own Vivritti commentary. Solid edition. This edition must be converted into English, it must be converted into Hindi also. Hard work, but it will be very much worth it. In October, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur stayed in Radhakund, Vrindavan for 1 month and lived in a small one-storied house which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had constructed. It is still there. He spoke to the assembled devotees on the Upanishads, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and he installed deities at the Kunja Bihari Mutt. It was at this time that Srila Prabhupada met with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he heard the prophetic comment, Agun Jwalve, there will be fire, in connection with the fighting over rooms which had broken out amongst Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples at the Bagh Bazaar in Gaudiya. When we were living in a rented house, he said, if we could collect 200 or 300 rupees, we were living very nicely at Ulta Danga. We were happier then. But since we have been given this marble palace in Bagh Bazaar, there is friction between our men. Who will occupy this room? Who will occupy that room? Who will be the proprietor of this room? Everyone is planning in different ways. It would be better to take the marble from the walls and secure money. If I could do this and print books, that would be better. Then he turned to Srila Prabhupada and said, Amar ichha chilo, ichu boy karana. I had a desire to print some books. If you ever get money, print books. This was right at Radhakund. Those important seeds were planted. On November 6th, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established a Pushpa Samadhi for Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur at Kunja Bihari Math in Radhakund. And following this, he preached in Delhi and Gaya. News came regarding preaching successes in Burma, and notable discussions were held with a number of Western scholars. In December, he went to Patna, in Allahabad, and in Allahabad delivered discourses on the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Rupa Goswami on the original site. On the original site means in the place where Lord Chaitanya had previously spoken to Rupa Goswami. A summary of that discussion is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 19. 1936 was to be the last year of the intense preaching, which had resulted in 64 temples being established in India and abroad. During this final year, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur met with many scholars, installed deities, established more temples, and preached widely in Mayapur, Cuttack, Puri for 100 days, Alalnath, Dhaka, Kurukshetra, Darjeeling, Mathura, Vrindavan, where he established a bhajan kutir at Govardhan, and then back to Calcutta, where he was constantly engaged in preaching. A doctor named Shivapad Bhattacharya tried to restrain him from so much lecturing due to his heart condition, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur replied to his entreaties. Life is for the glorification of topics on Hari. If that is stopped, then what need is there to carry on life? Pran ache jar, chehetu prachar. In that same year, in discourses in Dhaka, he made some revealing remarks in the same line. Physical illness with Hari Bhajan is preferred to physical fitness, song, Hari Bhajan. Physical illness with Hari Bhajan is better than physical fitness without Hari Bhajan. Hari Bhajan means devotion service unto Lord Hari. Bhajan means Bhajana Kriya, which means the 64 items of devotional service. Our span of life on earth is short. Our life will be crowned with success if the body wears out with constant discourses on Hari. He also uttered some other aphoristic remarks at these Dhaka meetings, which, due to their priti and sutra-like nature, remind one of the renowned Chanakya Pandit, had Chanakya been a pure devotee of Krishna. We are here on earth, not to work as artisans for making big buildings with wood and stone, but to work only as messengers of the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Deva. In other words, we are not just supposed to just build some buildings, and that's not the success of Lord Chaitanya's mission. It is rather to carry out the instructions of Lord Chaitanya and to spread Lord Chaitanya's teachings. We are meant to work as his messengers. We are put to test and trial in this world. Only those who attend the kirtan of the devotees can succeed. A sycophant is neither a guru nor a preacher. To transform the adverse desires of the jivas is the supreme duty of the most merciful. To rescue one person from the stronghold of Mahamaya is an act of superb benevolence, far superior to opening innumerable hospitals. Every spot on earth where discourses on God are held is a place of pilgrimage. Possession of objects not related to Krishna is our main malady, is our main problem. Let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. Unless we are devoted to God, secularism shall not leave us. As dalliance, sporting with the body and luxury increases, so wanes, decreases the spirit of service for the Lord. You cannot have both. You cannot try to enjoy anything in this world and at the same time increase my attitude of service to Krishna. Those favored by God find their paths set by thorns. When you are favored by Krishna to attain Him, then you will find plenty of obstacles between yourself and Krishna's lotus feet. There is no peace or happiness in our worldly life. Circumstances create turmoil and annoyance. Chant the Mahamantra loudly and with attachment. This will drive away inertia, worldly evils, and pests. Be indifferent to bazaar gossips. Stick firmly to your cherished goals. No lack or impediments of the world will ever stand in your way. Pay due respects to the extroverts of the world, but do not be appreciative of their manners and conduct. The due respect simply means we offer them our respect. Not that we start honoring them, worshipping them, that too in reality from the heart. They are to be shaken off from your mind. A devotee feels the presence of God everywhere, but one averse to the Lord denies His existence everywhere. You cannot appreciate transcendental matters with the reasoning of the world. It is sheer nonsense to decry them with the measuring stick of your intellect. To recite the name of Sri Krishna is bhakti. Sri Krishna naam uchcharane ke bhakti boliya jani be. You understand that the utterance of Sri Krishna's name is bhakti. So whenever we say that if you increase your bhakti, you should increase your engagement in bhakti, you should spend more time in bhakti, we find that from the acharyas. It means we should increase our chanting of the holy names. The prime method to progress in Krishna consciousness is to avoid sinful activities, offenses, and increase the quality and quantity of our chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There's a very important book named Harinam Chintamani by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to be translated into all languages of the world. We are meant to carry out the instructions of Haridas Thakur as it is presented by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Most of the book deals with how to avoid offenses. It also talks about being inattentive while chanting as the mother of all offenses. So all of this is very important food for thought for anyone who wants to progress unidirectionally from Shraddha to Prema. In October, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur sent Bhakti Saranga Goswami to preach in England and, if possible, America. His other preachers had not been able to accomplish anything very substantial after 3 years of preaching. They had met many scholars and dignitaries, and there was one woman who had started a center in England. But beyond that, none of their preaching had established any sizable centers, despite great expenditure on the effort. When Bhakti Saranga Maharaj later met Lord Zetland, who had very favorably received the first preachers and arranged various conferences for them, the English Lord had asked him, Swamiji, can you make us into Brahmanas? The reply was forthcoming, yes, why not? When the Lord inquired about the restrictions, Bhakti Saranga Maharaj replied, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and no gambling. Impossible, came the astounded reply. And that had reflected the conclusion of those preachers, that to actually turn mlechas, meat eaters, into followers of Vedic culture was practically impossible. Even in today's India, meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, gambling has become normal. It is our duty in any part of the world to fully obey the instructions of Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and spread it without being disoriented by other devotees and so on, without compromising with the standards given by Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. There are some in Vedic culture, we come across exalted gurus, exalted teachers, exalted sages, and so on. But there are some who are handpicked by God for particular purposes. Narada Muni, for instance, he is empowered to spread pure bhakti. The four Kumaras are empowered to spread the system of jnana correctly. Manu is empowered to create laws. So even other sages, exalted, liberated souls, even they accept Manu's authority. Why do they accept Manu's authority? They might be more advanced or whatever. Why do they accept Manu's authority? Because it's not Manu who's giving Manu Samhita, which is the foremost of the Dharma Shastras. Rather, it is the Supreme Lord Narayana through Manu that's doing that. He has made him, he has resolved that he should be a law-giving sage. Similarly, Prabhupada was sent. Prabhupada himself, he said, I was sent to give my books, and that these books would be the law books for 10,000 years. Very important to understand that. Similarly, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was sent to establish standards. It's Krishna's will, and we cannot question Krishna's will. So everything has to be seen in terms of to what degree does the views of those whom I cherish fit with the views of Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and to what extent it doesn't fit. Otherwise, we will not have the ability to produce the effect that Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur produced. Of course, we cannot produce it to the same effect, but to some effect that is considerable, something that they would appreciate. And that had reflected the conclusion of those preachers, that to actually turn lectures into followers of Vedic culture was practically impossible. It continued to appear impossible with the exception of the English lady and some German scholars who became Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples, until Srila Prabhupada came to the West and exhibited the transcendental empowerment bestowed upon him by the grace of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Lord Gauranga. The final days. In October, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went to Jagannath Puri. And there he exhibited his pastime of illness for some time at the Chatak Parvat in Jagannath Puri, which is considered to be non-different than Giri Govardhan. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur observed Madhvacharya's appearance day celebration and chanted verses specified for such occasions from the writings of Srila Rupa and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami's writings. He also held a similar festival for his spiritual master, Srila Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj. While he was passing his days in Puri, he was often heard to utter phrases from the verses of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Pratyasam me Tvam Guru Govardhana Purnam. O Govardhan, please fulfill my desire. Nijan Nikatta Nivasam Dehi Govardhana Tvam. O Govardhana, please give me a dwelling place on the banks of the pond nearby you. He also said pointedly, you all take to sincere Haribhajan, Nishkapata Haribhajan, non-duplicitous, non-diplomatic devotional service unto Lord Hari. There are not many more days. That's an indication that he would not be further in this world. He gave lectures in Puri for about a month and a half. And then on December 6th, he left Puri for Calcutta. At the Puri station, he was paid respects by many distinguished persons, especially due to their appreciation of his monumental activities of preaching Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message in India as well as abroad. Along the route, there was a stop in Cuttack, where he was met by Professor Sanyal and other followers, and in Calcutta, many devotees greeted him at Howrah station and brought him to the Gaudiya Math at Bagbazar. There he gave a lecture which lasted over an hour, and he covered many profound topics. He spoke of the importance of good association, the mystery of Lord Chaitanya's madness and separation in Puri during the last days at Gambhira, in the association of Srila Sarup Damodar and Srila Ramananda Rai. He spoke of the Guru's vision of seeing his Guru everywhere. It is my Gurudev who is graciously present in all these different forms. If he is not graciously present in all these different forms, who would then preserve me? Those whom my Gurudev has made his own are my saviors. The order of the Gurus who have in their nature the protecting power of the divinity are always present in different forms and figures to bestow their mercy on me. All of them are specific manifestations of Sri Guru who confers spiritual knowledge. The transcendental reflections, which are also of the nature of supporters, are the worship of the divinity, which appear in the different planes of cognitive existence, or my Gurudev in his different forms. He who is constantly showing us how to serve Godhead throughout life is no other than our Sri Gurudev. Sri Gurudev is present in every object as a supporting principle. He is graciously present in every object. And then he gives evidence from the 10th canto. O Chuta, O Priyal, O Panasa, Asana, and Kovidar, O Jambu, O Arka, O Bilba, Bakula, and Amra, O Kadamba, and Nipa, and all you other plants and trees living by the banks of the Yamuna who have dedicated your very existence to the welfare of others. We gopis have lost our minds, so please tell us where Krishna has gone. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also discussed the danger of discussing other topics after having admitted the topics of the Supreme Lord are superior, thereby indicating that other topics in connection with the Lord are inferior. He quoted the line from Raghunath Das Goswami's Manashiksha, Sadadam Bhum Hitva, always give up pride. He discussed the necessity of being careful about offenses to Vaishnavas, especially in connection with the Brahmanda Brahmite, Ona Bhagyavan Jeev, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, particularly describing the dangerous creepers of adoration, profit, and distinction. Inasmuch as Prabhupada primarily spoke about preaching is the essence, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur primarily spoke about purity is the force. My teacher, Sri Gopi Pranam Prabhu, told me that the preaching of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message involves 3 steps. The first step is to convince non-devotees to become devotees and help them become that. And the prime textbook for that is Bhagavad Gita. The second step is to convince the devotees to become pure devotees. To make devotees into pure devotees is the second step. The prime textbook for that is Srimad Bhagavatam. The third step is for a pure devotee to upgrade into a perfect pure devotee. And the prime textbook for that is Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they all have their respective primary focuses. Of course, even in Bhagavad Gita, there are descriptions of the perfect pure devotee, and even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll find descriptions of the non-devotees and so on. But we are talking of primary focuses. He quoted from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sharanagati from the Dainya section. Dainya means humility, which begins, Amar Jivan Sada Pape Rata Nahika Punyera Lesh. I'm an impious sinner and have caused others great anxiety and trouble, in which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur feels himself to be a grossly sinful materialistic person. The translation, which perfectly describes the life of an envious materialist, serves to instruct us what qualities must be overcome in our endeavor for self-realization, and which a self-realized person in his humility feels that he still possesses. I'm an impious sinner and have caused others great anxiety and trouble. I've never hesitated to perform sinful acts for my own enjoyment, devoid of all compassion, concerned only with my own selfish interests. I'm remorseful, seeing others happy. I'm a perpetual liar. And the misery of others is a source of great pleasure for me. The material desires in my heart are unlimited. I'm wrathful, devoted to false pride and arrogance, intoxicated by vanity, bewildered by worldly affairs. Envy and egotism are the ornaments I wear. Ruined by laziness and sleep, I resist all pious deeds. Yet I am very active and enthusiastic to perform wicked acts. For worldly fame and reputation, I engage in the practice of deceitfulness. Thus I am destroyed by my own greed and I am always lustful. A vile, wicked man such as this, rejected by godly people, is a constant offender. I am such a person, devoid of all good ones, forever inclined toward evil, worn out and wasted by various miseries. So when we approach Krishna's lotus feet, it's our duty. One of the 6 items of surrender is to very frankly acknowledge the difficult situation in which we are in. This is our situation. At least we should submit this to Krishna with all honesty. Now in old age, deprived of all means of success, humbled and poor, Bhaktivinoda submits his tale of grief at the feet of the Supreme Lord. This is, of course, Bhaktivinoda's teaching us that this is how we surrender unto the Supreme Lord. Okay, I'll stop at this, but let me first of all make a note. This is all right. Any questions? Very interesting. Just give me a minute, 1 minute. Prem Goswami.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danda, thank you for the good class. Prabhuji, one question, I'm not able to understand, just if you can elaborate on that. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that he sees Guru in everything and everywhere. So not clear, because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that we understand that a pure devotee should see Krishna in everything and everywhere.
But Krishna is not alone. He's with his eternal associates. So an eternal associate of the Lord is also there. Yeah. Okay, wait. This is Prabhupada's concluding words. Yeah. Although according to material visions, Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada passed away from this world on the last day of December 1936, I still consider His Divine Grace to be always present with me by His Vani, His words. So, advanced devotees perceive Krishna and Krishna's associates. They perceive Krishna and Krishna's associates. Here also look. I think that His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is always seeing my activities and guiding me within my heart by His words. As it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaya. Spiritual inspiration comes from within the heart, wherein the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His Paramatma feature is always sitting with all His devotees and associates. So, when you see the Supreme Lord, Pandita Samadarshana, that's correct. But he also sees, the spiritual master along with other associates of the Lord. Krishna is not alone. Krishna is with his eternal associates. And there's a question here. What's the meaning of the Guru is not subject to be subject to? No. It's simply that the word Guru can be used to refer to someone whom we conventionally accept as our guru. But the word guru also has another meaning, which means heavy. In other words, an Uttama Vaishnava himself is considered to be a guru. If you look at, for instance, take Guru Ashtakam, for instance. Samsara Dava Nalli Loka Pranaya Karunya Ganaganatvam Praptasya Kalyana Gunarnavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. And every verse has Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. You will not find Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur saying in any of the 8 verses, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Guru, from whom I took Diksha, from whom I took Shiksha, and so on. He's objectively describing, this person is a Guru, and I offer my respects unto him. It is a person who has attained the quality of compassion in order to save people suffering in the forest fire of material existence, and who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. It is a person who is with spiritual ecstasy, relishing Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nritya Gita Vaditra, who is relishing the Kirtana, the dancing, the playing of musical instruments in Mahaprabhu's Kirtana, with spiritual ecstasy. I offer my respectful obeisance unto such a person. He is a Guru. Like that, if you go, you check each verse, you'll find like that. So there are 2 different. There's one is just like the expression father. Suppose I say, today I became a father. What does it mean? I became a father to my child. I'm only a father to my child. I'm not a father to the whole world. I'm only a father to my child. Similarly, one becomes a wife means a wife of a particular man. Similarly, daughter means daughter of a particular person. These are all relational expressions. But so the word guru can be used in that way. I study scriptures from someone. I'm very inspired by him. I take shiksha from him. I take guidance from him. So then I'll say he is my shiksha guru. He's only my shiksha guru. He's not shiksha guru of everyone. I take initiation of course, bona fide shiksha. Similarly, I may take bona fide diksha from an exalted Vaishnava. So he's my diksha guru. He's only my diksha guru, that's all. Or anybody else who has taken diksha from him. It's not diksha guru of everyone. So this is a relational expression here. But the word guru also has another meaning. It means a person who is heavy with pure Krishna prema. And that person may not be related to me by diksha or shiksha. And it is very important to understand that we need to, if you want to attain Krishna prema, you need to serve one who is in Krishna prema without considering how he is related to you. That's different, this is different. You just look at this. Let me just show here. Here. 3 levels of devotees. There is the pure devotee with no anartha. One should faithfully serve that person. Now there's no consideration here of I will serve that person, I will serve him if I have taken diksha from him, or if I have taken shiksha from him. There's no consideration of what he is to do with you. That person is that's all. This is purely in accordance with the status of that devotee, with no consideration of my relationship with him. Just like here, one should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Krishna. Now, I may know him, I may not know him, I may have taken diksha from him, I may not have taken diksha from him, or both, or neither. It means nothing. In either case, I should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation diksha and is engaged in worshipping the deity. I may have received diksha or shiksha from him, or both, or neither. It still doesn't matter. one should offer humble obeisances to such a devotee means I should do that. One should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service, whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. I may have taken initiation from him. I may not have taken initiation from him. I might have taken instruction from him. I may not have taken instruction from him. It doesn't matter. This is how I should deal with such a devotee. So that this kind of person, the person who is absolutely fixed in full Krishna consciousness, is accepted as an Uttama Vaishnava. That person is repeatedly referred to as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as a bona fide guru and so on. Is the guru one who exhibits all the 8 qualities? There are not 8 qualities actually. I mean, this is the Lakshana, this is the definition of a guru. A guru is one who has this. I think that what we are trying to do is the exact opposite. I take instruction from someone, or I take initiation from someone, and then I imagine that he must be having these qualities. It's just like, okay, I'll give another example, a simpler example. Just like, I don't need to share the screen, I'll simply explain. Just like a Brahmana. A Brahmana is one who has the guna and karma of a Brahmana. This is our conclusion. It doesn't matter whether he has received Brahman initiation or not. He's a Brahmana. If he has the guna and karma of a Brahmana, he should be respected as a Brahmana. Full stop. Whether he wears a Brahman thread or not, this is not the consideration. That is official. The person who wears a Brahmin thread is meant to have the guna karma of a Brahman, but we know many times it doesn't happen like that. So we should go by guna karma. Very important, because a person, he might be just first initiated, but he may have the guna karma of a Brahmana. And when the scripture says you should serve Brahmanas on such and such a day, you should call such a person and feed him. Then Krishna will be pleased with you. Not just go by official accreditation, external symptoms and all that. Official symptoms or official accreditation, that is also coming from Shastra. Let us not misunderstand. That is also coming from Shastra. That is also coming from Shastra. But still, the higher consideration is there for the more intelligent. The more intelligent person will only go with guna and karma. He will not go by all this accreditation and so on. So similarly, we should be respectful to those with whom we have certain relationships. A Vaishnava guru, a Vaishnava father, a Vaishnava mother, a Vaishnava teacher, and so on. That is there. But that's due to a different set of rules. But here what Rupa Goswami is teaching is something even more profound. If I want to attain Krishna Prema, this is the highest consideration. It is objective. Purely objective. It is not relational. It is objective. Objective meaning is that means that. That's it. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he pushed that point. In fact, Prabhupada, if you read that purport to that verse, then you more or less understand how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur presents how we should deal with this topic. Shailesh.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for a wonderful class. Prabhuji, I have a request, if you don't mind. I'm not sure, I'm maybe not as learned as many in this class, but I find quite a lot of the points escape me by the end of the class because we've covered quite a lot of material and it's quite dry reading of the text. It would be really useful, if it is at all possible, for you to recap at the end of the class the main pertinent points that we take away points, particularly from a spiritual perspective of what points we should be learning from the class, or at least a summary form, if it's possible. I know it's a lot of time that you're spending on this, but it's there's so much nectar here. I sometimes feel that I miss some of it. It would be useful to be able to summarize.
For
As we go along, whatever we've covered, if it's possible to kind of summarize the key points that we've covered in that class, to summarize and recapitulate and perhaps focus and emphasize on the key learning points that we should take away from this.
See, for another course, Namashraya Bhakti, what we did was we requested the students to come up with a summary in the Telegram group, and that was done. And that was also appreciated. So I think that with Ray of Vishnu also we should do that. It's coming to an end, and then we should have a proper recap of that. I will again request some student to do that. That'll be a good exercise and it'll be good for everyone. I'll try to summarize, but there are too many, it's just too dense. That too, dealing with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is too dense. You don't know where to start, where to stop. And the Ray of Vishnu itself is a summary biography. It's only an abridged biography. It's not even a detailed one. After this, we're going to take up Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav. That is also a very detailed. That's even more detailed. I think it'll be nice if in the Telegram group some student can summarize. It could also be per session. That's also fine. That's also fine. But there are many more things which we will need to discuss further. It has been my view that these lectures with the screen share and so on, this is just one part of the education. Another part will be a discussion. And a number of times students come up with very interesting questions on the themes that are covered. Parampara Vaibhav will be a very detailed course with several acharyas' teachings. So I will naturally expect further detailed discussions through the Telegram forum. And we should utilize that. I don't expect that just a particular session would be completely assimilated. I think that it also, it needs some thought. It needs some thought. These things are not. And okay, I can summarize it, but I will definitely miss out many important points. Therefore, I left it like that. Let us think about it. Let us study it and think about it. And also, right now, we are dealing with the biographical portion. There are also further, when we come to the teachings portions, for each acharya, we have a biographical content, and then we also have content on just their teachings. Like for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we will have Gaudiya Kantaha. There, that would definitely be more applicable. For biographical content, we'll find some way. Okay, another question. What to do if we wish to ask some query related to a spiritual master based on what we hear? How to deal with them? One should discuss with the spiritual master. That's all. That solves the issue. What is that? What is that? Now, when we accept someone as when we take initiation, when we take instruction, we are meant to work on the basis of that. It's not just official. It's not just official. Oh, I've taken initiation from him, and I identify myself as a disciple, and I'll just continue with my life like that. First of all, that itself is required. This is Pancharatrika Vidhi, and this is required. We need help from the gurus. We need help from other Vaishnavas. That is why we find this expression Hari Guru Vaishnava Seva. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur often used it. Hari Guru Vaishnava Seva. Service to Hari Guru and Vaishnavas. That is complete. We have to serve Lord Hari. We have to serve the spiritual master. We need to serve the other Vaishnavas also, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva, Nistar Payache Keba, who has attained deliverance by neglecting service to the Vaishnavas. So all of this is required. Is there any formal procedure to take Shiksha Guru in ISKCON? From what I understand, in one letter, okay, let me try to trace something. Letter. Get this question. So far as your second question, Thakur Bhaktivinoda was not official spiritual master of Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj was already renounced order, Paramahamsa, but Thakur Bhaktivinoda, while he was even playing the part of householder, was treated by Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj as preceptor on account of his highly elevated spiritual understanding, and thus he was always treating him as his spiritual master. The spiritual master is divided into two parts, namely Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru. So officially, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was like Shiksha Guru of Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So from the official point of view, see, notice this, he was not official spiritual master. So from this itself, it appears that here Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj treated Bhaktivinoda Thakur like a spiritual master. You might refer to that as considering him as a Shiksha Guru. So it appears to me that this kind of acceptance is generally internal or non-official, unofficial. In fact, as far as I know, till today, 23rd of December 2021, I have not yet come across a statement from Bhaktivinoda Thakur where he refers to Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj as his official spiritual master or as his spiritual master. But we all know, historically we know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was following Jagannath Das Babaji. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he made that parampara, clearly places Jagannath Das Babaji then Bhaktivinoda, indicating that was reality. And then he puts Gaurakishore below that, which also, as we saw from that letter, that Gaurakishore Das Babaji in reality was listening to Bhaktivinoda. I think that it appears to me that Shiksha can be unofficial. At least it appears to me like that. But of course, there's a distinction. I asked my Guru Maharaj, Srila Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, that within ISKCON, the expression Shiksha Guru is becoming very common, too common. That we like somebody and we refer to him as a Shiksha Guru. But isn't it different when somebody fully accepts the Shiksha of a particular person, like for instance, like Gaurakishore Das Babaji. He accepts Bhaktivinoda, fully accepts Jagannath Das Babaji. Fully means fully, Sakshadharitvena type. So I asked him, isn't it a little different? Because within ISKCON we notice many devotees, they say XYZ is my Shiksha Guru, ABC is my Shiksha Guru, but they don't fully listen to him, serve him, and it's not that they're not absolutely serving him, but they respect him. They have profound respect for him or her. All of these is going on. So isn't there a distinction? Then he said, yes, of course. You may accept someone as a Shiksha Guru as an absolute representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there seems to be a distinction there. Shailesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry, I have a question regarding Siksha and Diksha. What is a Sastric Praman for when Krishna says one should take guidance from a spiritual master, and one who does not have a spiritual master cannot find Krishna? But if one is accepted, this is often a question I get asked in my sanghas, is if they've accepted a guru in their heart, are taking their instructions very seriously, etc., but hasn't taken formal diksha, i.e., they have taken diksha in their hearts, but hasn't taken a formal procedure. Do they qualify to for liberation to Krishna's lotus feet in Golok, or is there Sastric Praman that is still disqualification because they haven't formally taken Gayatri?
Well, you need to at least accept. When you accept a guru, you need to have the holy name itself has been considered a mantra, Maha Mantra. Now, the mantra has to be received from a guru, that we know from scripture. Haribhakti Vilas, first chapter, makes it very clear. Mantra has to be received from a guru, and you need to, from a guru who has certain qualities, of course. That's all of that is there. And the mantra has to be chanted according to certain prescriptions, prohibitions, certain regulations. So, accepting a spiritual master has to be not just internal. One needs to have a bona fide spiritual master. Externally, one needs to listen. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshantite jnanam jnananas tattvadarshina. Like that, there are so many places. Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jigyashu sreya uttamam prapadyeta. One should surrender. Surrender means it has to be like that. There is a place where, let me trace this. Let me share this screen. Somebody asked Prabhupada this question: can I not take initiation in my heart? Let me see if I can trace it out. Yeah. His question was that you can take initiation by accepting the spiritual master in your heart without actually taking. This is bogus proposition. It has no meaning. It has no meaning. If you think within yourself, I'm eating, will you be satisfied? If you starve and simply think, I've eaten everything, is that very practical proposal? You must eat. So accepting a spiritual master has to be tangible. Has to be tangible. There's plenty of evidence. Even the Mayavadis who believe that scripture is Maya, scriptural knowledge is Maya, spiritual realization from the scriptures, in the sense coming to the mode of goodness is Maya, the Guru Parampara is Maya, the Guru is Maya, Shishya is Maya, the mantra is Maya. Even they insist you must accept the Guru, not just in the heart and all that. You must externally accept the Guru. There are procedures. There are procedures. Vedic knowledge is not just a set of books. It is knowledge which has been encoded in the books and which has been demonstrated through the parampara. Just like in the Pancharatrika scriptures, we have descriptions that you should worship the deity and so on. There are the parampara, in the paramparas, they will actually worship the deity with arati, with the conch, with this, with that, and all that. It's a demonstration. This is how you do it. So like that, it has to be done in a particular manner. Otherwise, the result will, you won't achieve the result. That's all. You simply won't achieve the result. I'll give an example that I often give. For Sanskrit grammar, there is a standard authority known as Ashtadhyayi. It's a Sanskrit grammar textbook. It was presented by a great sage named Panini. And everyone, including Srila Jiva Goswami, accepts the authority of Panini. He was blessed by Lord Shiva, according to tradition also. So now Panini's book is there, and he provides a set of grammatical rules. But you need to learn how to apply those rules in order to generate correct Sanskrit words and correct Sanskrit sentences. So you cannot just do whatever you want. You can't just look at that and you say, well, and that sutra is saying this sutra is saying that. Let me mix them together in this particular order that I like, and then you will produce some wrong Sanskrit word. Instead of Vishnave, you will produce Vishnaya, which is wrong. It's wrong. Or you may put words together in a wrong manner. It will not be a proper Sanskrit sentence. So it has to be put in a particular manner, and there are procedures on how to put scriptural information together in such a manner that the effect is produced. Panini has presented that book on Sanskrit grammar for a particular purpose. And we take advantage of his book in order to attain that purpose. The purpose is to be able to generate correct Sanskrit words and correct Sanskrit sentences. And for that, there are several procedures which go beyond the wordings of that scripture. For which there is a parampara, you can say, grammar parampara. So similarly, in the pathway of Bhagavad Bhakti, we all know the first step is to accept a bona fide spiritual master. We know that. But what it means and how it means, all of that has to be accepted in the manner it has been demonstrated through the paramparas, which are actually scriptural traditions, which are practical demonstrations of scriptural activities. So then you can see, okay, here when you accept a bona fide spiritual master and you carry out his instructions, this effect will be seen. So then you will see the same effect will be seen if you do everything. If you accept all the do's and don'ts, you will see that. So therefore, when it says accepting a spiritual master, it means many things. It means many things. It's not just accepting within the heart. We accept within the heart, and externally also there are many things which we need to do. Many things we need to do. Do we inform the Shiksha Guru that I'm taking Shiksha from him? What is the meaning of that? Shiksha means guidance. And guidance refers to guidance in such a manner that we actually progress in Krishna consciousness from Shraddha to Prema. It is not just motivation, inspiration, and so on. It is, we need to progress in Krishna consciousness. Progress means, okay, let me just put it in a very simple manner. It means carrying out the instructions of Rupa Goswami as set out in Upadeshamrita step by step. Let me say that in that manner. We have various instructions, from the most elementary instruction to the highest instruction. So we should become capable of uninterruptedly carrying out these instructions and progressing. So that means if I'm actually progressing in Krishna consciousness, the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals will reduce and finally become zero. If I'm progressing in Krishna consciousness, I will lose any attraction towards these 6 activities which are spoiling my devotional service. I will become spontaneously attracted to these 6 principles which are favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. And so on and so on and so on. I'll be able to properly execute the other instructions of Rupa Goswami. So when this happens, then we know we are progressing. When it doesn't happen, we know that we are not progressing. So like that. Even in Bhagavad Gita, we see there are symptoms of a sthita pragya, a person who is fixed in spiritual consciousness. 2nd chapter. Gunatita, a person who has transcended the 3 modes of material nature. 14th chapter. The symptoms of a transcendental Vaishnava. 12th chapter. We are meant to check. Are these qualities coming to me, or am I becoming very far from these? Is it all just theory? If it's theory, it means I'm not progressing, I'm regressing. This is how we check whether we are progressing or regressing. And in order, it is to progress that we accept the Diksha, Shiksha, and so on. There's a nice book by Shivaram Swami Maharaj called The Shiksha Guru. Nice book. It's available in Amazon as an e-book. I think the book should be, it was printed in 1999. I wish that it is printed even now and it is made available in several languages. Very, very good. I myself have a desire that there should be some kind of extended IDC. In addition to the regular content, there should be content on Shiksha Gurus, there should be content on 6 types of surrender unto Krishna, Shadanga Sharanagati. There should be a content on Prabhupada's abridged Lilamrita, like that. So that at the time of taking initiation, before that, the devotee is fully aware of what he is getting into. What is he getting into? What does it signify? It means many things. Taking initiation from a Vaishnava spiritual master in a particular line has many, many implications for your whole life. So they should know all these things. So that book would be good. It's called The Shiksha Guru. Good book, very, very good book. I've never seen such a detailed analysis of Shiksha Gurus. Good book. It's actually a good book. Anything else? All right. Any further discussions? We can continue on Telegram. Hare Krishna.